Good morning. Good morning, all of you. It's really a privilege and an honor to discuss such a interesting topic and a topic that has been, close to my heart for, if not years, several uh, years actually. Mm. And it is, of course, not possible to capture everything under this area of discussion. But I'll try to capture at least the interesting parts and what will help you also enlighten yourself along with me. Also, I also learn when I share things with all of you. So, without much discussions, maybe I'll directly go. I've prepared a few slides so that it becomes easier for me to remember what to talk after what. So, here we go. So, this is what starts when life stops. I was actually thinking what title should I give to the session, but then suddenly this idea came to my mind, and I immediately shared with Shabana ji that perhaps this can be the topic of discussion. Essentially, what I wanted to discuss is many of us have lot of inhibitions, lot of doubts about death, and many of us feel that there are many people who are less worried about what is going to happen in old age, but more worried about what will happen after death. And oh my God, what kind of punishments will I face? What kind of unknown situations will I face, and so on. So this session is supposed to handle some of these queries and also to help you understand how interesting it is. I'm sorry, it sounds very weird, but then, I can't stop sharing this because over the last 20 years or more, as I have done so many past life regressions with so many people, some of you are here in this session also today. I have learned a lot. I've learned a lot about life. I've learned a lot about death and life between lives, life after death, and so on. So my discussion is not about death. My discussion is what happens after that. What happens after life stops. So the first thing that comes to my mind, there are a few things that I will be discussing. Just I prepared a snapshot. I will be discussing not in the same sequence, in different sequence. What happens? There's something called a tunnel. I'll discuss that. Also, I'll discuss in very basic language, very simple language, starting from what is the soul, how souls are created, soul journey, which I've discussed several times on this forum. Do souls also fall ill? It's a very important question. And do souls also go through trauma? Like we face so many traumas. And do souls socialize? Do they play games? Do they enjoy when they are up there? Also, what kind of healing does the soul go through? And many more topics we will try to discuss given the time that we have. So the first is the tunnel. This is very interesting, and uh, approximately most of my patients or most of my clients who have witnessed death after, I mean, during a session, they feel that they pass through a tunnel and they see themselves as a ball of light and they pass through a tunnel, and as they pass through a dark tunnel they see that at the end of the tunnel there is beautiful light, beautiful bright white light. Sometimes it is white, sometimes it is a soft light, very bright, but they cannot explain the color of the light. But they all feel that they are moving at a very fast pace and they are approaching a bright white light. And most often, what happens, most of my clients, what they say, they never say that Buddha came to receive me, or Jesus Christ came to receive me, or Lord Krishna or Lord Shiva came to receive me. That actually doesn't happen. What happens is each of us, we have spirit guides. So the light that comes is in the form of a spirit guide. Okay, it's a guide of our soul that comes and embraces us, envelops us actually. It's kind of a envelopment that happens, and the moment that envelopment happens, it is nothing but pure ecstasy. So it helps the soul to calm down, and gradually it helps to recollect all that happened in that particular birth very fast. When I say fast or slow, you have to understand that only on Earth, only on a three-dimensional world or a four-dimensional world, do we have the concept of time. Up there, there is nothing. There is no concept of time. So when I say too fast, it is not in terms of time. It just takes you throughout the life that you have led, and in a very short, again I'm using the word time, but then there is no time. In a very short time, you start feeling what are the good things that you have done in this life. You feel really joy. You feel happy. You feel very contented. Oh, thanks. I have done so many good things in life. And it also helps you feel a bit bad, a bit miserable on what are the things you really have not been able to do, wherever you have failed. You could have done better, but you have failed. Now, when I say failed, it is about you, about your soul, not about the surroundings. Also, it is not about the mental state. See, you have to understand at the soul state, you are independent. You are independent in the sense that you are independent from the body. You are no more having the same body that you had. So, obviously, you are not exposed to the same mental agonies, mental tensions, mental states, emotions once you pass away. All that is not there. So, you are able to think, you are able to put in your thoughts independently of the body that you left. So this evaluation of the life that you led is very different than what you would do in a physical state. Okay, because in the physical state, I am biased. I am more in favor of what I am. So in the physical state, we often say, "Ah, I did it," but do you know what happened? So we try to justify. At the soul state, we don't need to justify. We just need to feel good about the good things we have done and feel a bit bad about the bad things that we have done. But nevertheless, it's a great meeting the guide, and just the feeling of ecstasy when you meet the guide. It envelops you with a bright light, warm light, and you feel the love of the light. You know. So, as I was telling you, this is also very important, the treatment. So, this we call at the end of the funnel, though there is a light, but there's a gateway. There's a gateway which is very interesting. And most of my clients and patients have also spoken about a gateway. So when they reach a gateway, it is the envelopment that happens is actually in the form of a bubble. Okay. And that is where what happens is a lot of healing and all that takes place, because at the physical state, we have gone through a lot of emotional trauma, lot of physical trauma, which actually distorts the original shape and energy of the soul. I'll tell you what is the soul. So it distorts a lot. So the first thing that happens is energy permeation. Okay, the moment you enter this bubble, the first job of your guide is to restore the lost energy, the lost, fragmented parts of the soul back to your soul. Okay, that's the first thing that your guide will do. In fact, many a times it is not one guide; it could be several guides who come and try to help your soul restore the previous form before you took birth. Okay. And here, this is a very long story. It can take more than a session to discuss how this happens and all that. But just a glimpse of it. Sometimes there are a lot of deaths which happens suddenly, maybe from an accident or some form of a very prolonged illness and so on. In these cases, the soul gets affected much more than it should have been. So in these cases, there are some divine hospitals. Okay. So when the guide feels that it is not its domain to heal, or it is not capable of healing such a major a distortion of the soul, then it takes the soul in the form of a bubble, just like an ambulance. You have seen ambulance on wheels. It takes you to the hospital, to the exact department where the healing has to take place, where the surgery has to take place. So that is also there. So sometimes, and there are people who commit suicide, which is actually not very good thing to do. So in these kind of cases, the soul is really fragmented and distorted. So they require a longish period in the hospital. They need to stay there in the hospital for a very long time to restore its original shape. And only after the healing process is complete and the soul is back to its original level when it came before it came to earth, then it is exposed to the spirit world. Without the healing process being done, it is not exposed to the spirit world. It is just like when you come home, when you return home from outside, you many a times, if you are like dirty, or maybe you have been drenched in the rain, or you are feeling clumsy, you directly go to the washroom, you take a shower, and then you come out. So it is like that. It is just like taking a very deep shower and cleaning yourself, cleaning your body, cleaning your mind, cleaning your soul, your spirit, and then you get exposed to your home, because you don't want your members of your house to get infected by the germs that you're carrying from outside. So this is kind of a cleansing process that happens. What is a soul? I don't need to tell you what is a soul. Most of you are aware. Everything in that in the metaphysical world or the non-physical world is about energy. There is nothing other than energy. Everything is energy. So a soul is also an energy. Now, the intelligence of the soul depends on what kind of a soul it is. If it is a human soul, it is more complex. Perhaps the energy ball is also larger than a small plant, or a small animal like an ant or a squirrel, and so on. So the complexity of the soul depends on how evolved it is, how evolved as a soul it is. And also we have to understand a soul is like fire. It can take various forms at the same time. It can have dual presence or multiple presence, though not as frequently as we see in movies. But yes, it is possible that uh, your soul has a simultaneous presence across universes. Okay, sometimes on Earth itself, the same soul has taken two life forms. Even that is possible. But these are very rare cases, not very common cases. But one thing is very, very, very true. When we take birth, the entire soul is not with us here. Part of our soul is also up there. So that is how when we pass away and we go to the higher realms, we find our loved ones there. So when we find our loved ones there, it does not necessarily mean that they have not taken birth. They have taken birth, but a part of the soul is there. So hence we can see them, we can recognize them. Okay. So it's a bit complex. It's like dual existence or multiple existence at the same point in time. But then again, I go back to my previous statement where I said there is no concept of time in the heavens. Okay. So there is nothing called time. It's things can happen simultaneously. Things can, previous things can happen now, and things that are happening now can happen later. Future is present, present is future, past is present. That way. So, do souls fall ill? Yes, I have already shared with you. And souls do fall ill. Even at the soul state, souls can fall ill. But this is a very interesting topic also. So I have been able to take past life regression on few people where they said that, I mean, one case I distinctly remember, of a lady who was a pranic healer in Bombay. Okay. and she insisted me several times that I want to experience past life. So I said that, you need to have a proper agenda. Why you want to go for past life? So she said that it is very simple. I want to know who I was across lifetimes. That's all, nothing else. So that is when I first understood that there is something called the transformers on Earth. So many of these people, of course, let me tell you that this lady whom I'm talking about uh, used to be a Kali Bhakt, and though she was a pranic healer, but she never used the traditional pranic healing concepts that we practice. So generally, when she used to heal others, she used to go to a kind of a trance state and then start healing the person, which is not generally the practice in pranic healing. So when I took her to past life, she spoke about that she has been a transformer on Earth. Okay, so what is transformer? Transformer is nothing very great, but still it is very interesting to understand that. So transformers are those souls who are present in the physical form on Earth, but they have this, guidance from the heavens to transform certain souls which are distorted at the physical form. So, for example, I'll give you a very, very simple example. You will be able to understand it immediately. Suppose you are preparing pizza or a chapati at home, and it's a very thin crust. Okay. Now, suppose you take it and you put it on the tawa on the non-stick, and when you put it on the non-stick, sometimes it is not spanned over the non-stick equally. Sometimes it may get folded. Does it happen to you? I'm sure it happens. Sometimes it gets folded. And then you get very irritated. Oh my God, I didn't want it this way. I wanted it to be equally distributed on the plate. This is distortion. Similarly, when a soul comes on earth, it is supposed to take a particular shape, form, but it can manifest in a distorted pattern because of several reasons. Maybe the womb it had selected was not the right place. Maybe the environment was not right. Maybe some problem happened, because of which the soul is going through some problems. The soul can go through some, inexplicable mental distortion, or it could be, a specific illness which nobody is able to cure, or nobody is able to even apprehend what is going on, and so on. These kind of things can happen. So the transformers on earth, actually, they work the way it is healing happens in the heavens. So what they do is they go to trance state, and in their trance state, they create energy balls. And energy balls are nothing but geometric structures, the one you see there. They are geometric structures, and they identify the part of the soul that requires healing. And they know exactly which energy structure should be formed, which should be created to pass on to that part of the soul to heal it, so that it manifests itself in the physical form. And then the person gets healed. Okay. And this is something that we have seen since time immemorial. We have heard of Lord Jesus Christ. We have heard of Buddha. We have heard of Krishna. We have heard of Prophet Muhammad. I mean, so many of them were great healers. Of course, it is also true that many of these transformers used to take birth earlier, and now they don't take birth anymore. Okay, because they prefer to heal from heaven more and not on earth. So nowadays they don't take too much of human form. But yes, still there are many on earth. Even today, there are a lot of them on earth. So these are essentially, so that is one part of the healing part of souls. Other things is repeated patterns. Repeated patterns. What are repeated patterns? Now, suppose every time a soul is taking birth, its resolution is to be honest. Very simple, very simple. Be honest and trustworthy. Okay. And every time it is taking birth, it is going through some problems because of which it is lacking trust and also not being able to be trustworthy to others. Okay. So if the soul has taken, say, several births and still not learning how to learn how to be trustworthy or how to be honest, okay, sometimes these transformers try to pass on this particular energy structures which can heal that part of the soul, which can rectify those patterns. Okay. Or there could be some soul blockages also which needs healing, and that can be healed. Human souls, of course, there are human souls can be of different shapes, different sizes. The color is, of course, not blue. Don't get influenced by this. There can be various colors, which I'll come in the next slide, I think. And human souls can be of multiple layers also. You must have seen those, special parathas, which has fluffy parathas, which have multiple layers. Souls also can have multiple layers. And the fundamental difference between an animal soul, which I'll discuss later, animal soul and human soul is human soul is ego driven. Human soul is emotion driven, and it can have various colors and various grades, which many times animal souls or plant souls may not have. Okay. This is the soul path, and this kind of a diagram I think I have showed to many of you earlier also, but for the sake of the newcomers, it's like when a soul is I'll also talk about soul creation, but then when a soul is created, the initial phase when a soul is created, it is called an infant soul. Okay. And the color, as you see there, it's kind of white, and then it gradually becomes more and more matured, and I would use the word enlightened. Through different births, they take resolutions, they come back, they go back, they come back, they go back. It keeps on happening, and gradually they become matured, and gradually they learn how to overcome ego and emotions. They learn how not to disturb their self, their soul, despite there being emotional turmoils. Okay. How to detach their soul from their brain. Okay. So they learn all of these, and gradually as they proceed, they move towards becoming matured souls, old souls, and the highest form is transcendental souls. Okay. Now here, of course, you see just above the soul types. I've also mentioned some pathway of emotions, and souls which are baby, very young, very young souls, or baby souls, or infant souls. They are exposed to lot of emotional turmoils. Okay. Very quickly they become susceptible to emotional upheavals. Okay. They learn from it, they commit a lot of mistakes, they they learn and they move on. Okay. And then when souls become matured, then gradually they learn how to be pure love, how to be more acceptable, how to be more accepting, willing to change, have the courage to be happy all the time. So that is towards spiritual enlightenment. Okay. Here, another thing which is also very important is to understand that the soul journey is not about punishment. So when we make mistakes, many times you might see that there are people who, I mean, who have committed major crimes. Okay, so for example, let us talk about a rapist. Okay, or a person who kills an innocent person. Now, see, it might sound very weird to you, but let me tell you that have you heard of rape cases in the jungle between animals? Has anybody spoken about it ever? No. Has anybody ever, discussed about a lion taking permission from the lioness before having, sex? No. So if it is without permission, then it is tantamount to rape. But we don't talk about it. Neither does the animal kingdom talk about it. But yes, that is also not right. That is also wrong. So rape is a wrong act. But the point is, we as humans are too much into judgment all the time. So when a cheetah hunts a deer, the pain of the deer is 1,000 times more than a person killing a deer by a bullet. But the punishment of the human being killing a deer is much more than a cheetah killing a deer. We say it is ecosystem. Well, I'm not here. Please don't enter into that judgmental mode. I'm just talking about situations. Okay. And by situations, what I mean is souls which are not matured, they commit lot of mistakes. Lot of mistakes. They might have an animal instinct because they behave like what animals behave in the jungle. But that doesn't mean that they go through punishment. What they go through is enlightenment. They learn from their mistakes, and in the next birth, they try to rectify. They learn again from mistakes, again rectification. So this, whole act of learning from mistakes, rectification, next birth, this process goes on and on and on for thousands and thousands of years until you move ahead and become an enhanced soul, matured soul. You come to level 2, level 3, level 4, and so on. So this is how it happens. And once you are beyond the young soul level and you become matured souls, then you can actually also start becoming teachers in the soul world, in the spirit world. Okay, so you start with junior guides. So then you can become a guide to somebody else. Or later on, when you become even more advanced, you can become senior guides, and then eventually you can become masters. Okay, so I just thought I'll tell you that this whole concept of punishment is actually non-existent everywhere in the spirit world. There's nothing called punishment. It is our religions that have created this whole concept of punishment. Okay, this is very interesting. Few of my clients have discussed that at some point in time in the soul world, they have been incubator mothers or even nursery mothers. And it's so interesting to hear those stories. And they say that there is a creator behind the wall which they cannot see, or there are even more very advanced souls which actually create this kind of just like you see in beehives. That is why I have this picture here. This kind of beehives are there, and there are eggs inside, and the womb of that actually it's like the heartbeat. It booms, boom, 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 like this. It keeps on happening, and the incubator mothers wait for an egg to be hatched. So the moment an egg is hatched, it comes out. Okay, and it's these each of these hives are like silken threads, spun out of a nice network of silken threads. Okay, and golden in color. So the moment a egg hatches, it comes out, and it is packed in golden energy. It's kind of a incubator, golden incubator where the soul is. So these incubator mothers, they initially get wet souls. They call wet. They are wet. They are. I mean, so they clean them, they dry them, just like it happens for human beings. Okay, they clean them, they dry them, and they nurture them, and then from the incubation center, they pass it on to nurseries, and they gradually grow up there, not here, and they gradually grow until they become eligible to take birth. Okay, so it's a wonderful mechanism, and one of my very, very dear person, like my father, his wife, uh, after his wife passed away, we tried to connect to the soul of his wife, and there I came to know that she was serving as a nursery mother. Previously, she was an incubator mother, but now she is serving as a nursery mother. That is how I came to know more about this whole process of divine eggs, the womb, how souls are being created, and how they now when somebody is a nursery mother or an incubator mother, it doesn't mean that the soul belongs to earth. By the way, nobody knows whether the soul that is being created, that they are nurturing is a human soul or not. Also, it can be something else. Okay, so it can be a creature, something that will go to some other universe in some other world. So we don't, I mean, these incubator mothers may not have any clue of that. Only after they pass the nursery stage, then it is actually understood whether this soul is supposed to go to earth or some other dimension in some other form. So this is very interesting. We were talking about souls, different forms of souls, and there's a myth that animals eventually become human beings after a lot of iterations. That may not be always true. In fact, in the spirit world, animals have different spaces. Okay, and humans have different spaces. However, it is possible that suppose you have your own pet dog or cat or something else, and in the soul world you want to meet them. Then there are certain caretaker souls who have the permission to go to the animal, spirit animal world to bring your pet, or they create a hologram of your pet with energy, which is a replica of your actual pet. So they bring the soul of your pet, which is actually a hologram or a replica of your original pet, and you can actually be there with your pets also in the soul world. That also I have seen that some of my patients, they said that I was desperately looking for Jimmy. I said, who is Jimmy? Well, Jimmy was my dog. I was desperately looking for that, and then I communicated to one of my master guides, and there was a caretaker soul who brought Jimmy in front of me, and I spent some time with Jimmy. So, but it was actually, later I understood that it was not actually Jimmy. It is a replica of Jimmy, just like what do you call it, a hologram, in a light form. Okay. And in the animal world also, there are three kinds of animals. One, the domesticated souls, which can be domesticated, like I was talking about Jimmy. So these are animals which understands human emotions. So animals that understand human emotions, they sacrifice the freedom of the jungle and become domesticated souls. Animals that cannot understand human emotions are the wild souls. Broadly speaking, both are animal souls, and animal souls are of smaller particles. It's smaller energy ball. It is not that complex, and it gets dissolved with the environment very easily. But human souls try to govern the environment where they live in. Human souls try to, like, how it happens. We try to change the environment, human beings. Animal souls accept, and they integrate, they weave themselves with the environment. So that is the difference between animal souls and human souls. Soul creation we discussed. Energy assortment is very similar actually. So we were talking about different forms of energy, and in most cases, you cannot cross the boundaries of human souls. You cannot enter into the animal kingdom. That is their soul space. So your soul space is defined. The animal soul space is defined. And if you want to interact across soul spaces, then you need to take help of special souls, which I call caretaker souls. Okay, the caretaker souls actually helps you to connect with beings which are not human, with something else. And if you really know them or you want to connect, then you need to take care of those caretaker souls. This is very, very interesting, soul dances. And this is also about soul socialization. Okay. So if you feel that in the soul world, it is only about very serious matters, serious things, absolutely not. The first thing, when souls come together in the form of a clan, then they really engage into a lot of music, singing, and dancing. Of course, the this music, dancing, and singing is not the same thing that we practice in the physical world. These are when souls engage into dancing, they actually play. And the most prevalent games that they play is creating energy particles, creating energy forms. So, in childhood, we often used to take a ball of clay, and we used to create forms, like we can create a cat or a rat or a or some human form with two hands, two legs. We used to create all of that. So similarly, in the soul kingdom, the first exercise, the learning exercise that they get is they get a bunch of energy particles, and they have to manipulate it, they have to change it and create a special form of soul, form of energy, and so on. Now, these forms of energies are the first learning of souls, and it can be for different purposes. It can be for, say, to heal emotions. So, just like entrepreneurs, the way entrepreneurs behave, entrepreneurs think that, oh my God, there is this opportunity, and I need to crack this opportunity. So similarly, souls also, when they create some form from this particles of energy, they have something in mind to serve. Okay, and then they start forming this energy balls. And as they create these energy balls, they pass it on to others in this ring when they play. And they come closer and closer. And this is the way, through this dance, this round and round circular dance that souls play, through which they actually enrich the bonding with their own soul clan, with their own soulmates, soul partners, and so on. Okay. And it's a very, very soothing exercise where one soul heals the other. They try to understand what others are going through. So it is lot of sharing, lot of caring, lot of learning, lot of games, lot of fun that happens in the soul world. And one thing I forgot to tell you right in the beginning, when we pass away, when we meet the guide first time, and when you are in that incubator, in that bubble, the first thing that happens is you are disassociated with the emotions of the life, of the previous life that you led. You are totally disassociated. If that disassociation doesn't happen, in many cases, when the soul is very rigid and doesn't want to disassociate itself, then they hover around as ghosts. Then these are very rare cases where souls reject the love of the guide and don't want to go up. They are so attached with the human form that they want to stay back there itself. So those are ghosts, or can be, different forms of entities. Anyway, that's a different matter. So this is dance, and this is actually how you enrich. It is as if a member of the family coming back. Okay, and then you get united with all your family members, and then when this happens after a few years, if you come back to your family, you spend hours and hours chatting, having fun, watching TV together, or having good food together over drinks and so on. So that is what is soul dance. Soul dance is extremely powerful, and all souls, they look forward to the soul dance once they enter into the spirit world. This is very interesting, soul energy. So when we take birth, each one of us, we know that life on earth is not simple. So we have to go through a lot of trauma many a times, lot of emotional upheavals, lot of pain we have to go through. So each soul, when it takes birth, it carries some amount of soul energy. Okay, and most of the time, the masters, the divine masters, they help souls to decide what is the amount of soul energy they should carry along with them in the physical form. Okay. Now, sometimes souls are arrogant and they don't listen to their masters, and they decide not to carry much of soul energy because they want to save their soul energy when they come back. So they don't want to carry much. And when they take birth and they are unable to bear the kind of burden in the physical world, they sometimes are not able to handle it. These are specific cases when human beings become mad, or they are totally out of control, or or they are unable to heal themselves. These are things that happen only when there's a mismatch of the amount of energy that you should have brought for this lifetime and what you actually brought, what you actually got. Okay. In this context, there is also a concept called soul armor. Soul armor is actually an armor. It's a protection. Now, this protection we all have, but those souls which are very high level souls, old souls, transcendental souls, and so on, when they take birth, they have this protective armor because they don't want to live the life of a normal human being. So, like you might have seen saints and sadhus and so on, they are there in the Himalayas at a temperature of -20, -25, and they don't even have a piece of cloth on their body. You might be wondering what is going on. So they have soul armor. You cannot go to the Himalayas at -25 degrees centigrade and just sit there and start a meditation without wearing any clothes. We will die, we will freeze in 10 minutes. So how are they there at such a low temperature without any clothes? It is because they have soul armors. They have a protective shield, which is not visible, of course. This we already discussed. Each soul comes from a soul clan, and it's a group of souls which take birth together. But souls taking birth together does not necessarily mean that they grow together also. The growth depends on various other factors during our lives. During our lives, we get the maximum opportunity to learn and to develop ourselves, to develop our souls, to enlighten our souls. Some do it very easily, others don't do it very easily. But that doesn't mean that they leave their soul clan. They may still be there in the same soul clan where some of them are very, very developed, very enlightened, and others are not. So if you are within the soul clan, it's always your job to enlighten others, to take others along with you. And that is what the soul dance is all about. In the soul dance, you actually try to pass on your learnings, your energy to the younger souls who also need to rise along with you. Okay. There are also something called affiliated souls. Affiliated souls are those souls which do not belong to your clan or your cluster, in some other cluster, but with whom you have developed a bond. So there must be some commonality between two souls because of which you may have developed some bond, though you don't belong to the same soul clan and so on, same cluster, which also can happen. But for that to come too close to a soul which is from a different clan, you need to take permission from your guides. But then that is not a big deal. We are coming to the end of the session. This is something very, very interesting. The master souls. The master souls are of different types. The master souls, once you are at the soul state in the spirit world, there are timekeepers. The timekeepers help you to understand your whole soul journey across lifetimes, what you were and how you have learned from each and every lifetime. So they are the keepers of your Akashic records. And archivist souls are those souls which are the keepers of these records. Timekeepers and archivist souls, they work hand in hand very together, and they are actually in charge of your entire, it's the library actually. The archivist souls are the librarians, and the timekeepers, they actually keep the record of, they keep on adding information and inputs to the library. Okay. Projectionist is a very interesting thing. So what happens before we plan to take birth? We have certain resolutions. Okay, that in this coming lifetime, in this upcoming lifetime, I want to learn XYZ. For example, I want to learn how to be punctual. I want to learn how to be loving and caring. I want to learn how to be trustworthy. Okay. So the projectionist, what it does is, with the help of the planners and the ring masters, they create some virtual reality in a projection room, and they actually gives you options, 4 or 5 options, that look, you can take, if you want to take birth, you can take plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, and they show you glimpses of that birth before you take birth. This is your womb, this is your mother, this is the environment that you have. The major milestones are, this is when you might face an accident and it will be a great learning for you. This is when you get married, and this is the person from whom you might be learning a lot. Okay. This is your next turning point. This is your next turning point. And this is your death sequence, how it happens. Okay. So they show you the different forms from which you can learn the maximum, given your resolutions. You have the choice to select one of them. You even have the choice to ignore all of them and select yourself also. You can create a mix of the 5 also. But always, at all times, you will have the planners and the ring masters who will guide you to select what you want to do, what you should do. It is up to you to take their advice or not. There are a lot of arrogant souls. I have known many arrogant souls who decline to take the advice of ring masters because they want to move very fast. The masters, they say that, you know what, you should not go so fast. This is not the right thing for you to do. Your soul is not ready for it. They don't listen to the masters and take up something which they cannot achieve. And they face a lot of problems on earth. Okay, so that's all. I'm done. Over to you for questions.
Thank you, Devashish. It was very interesting. Many things we did not know before. So we do have a question from Elba.
Thank you very much.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Professor Devashish.
How are
Thank you
you?
so much. Thank you so much. You just gave us a lot of information, very interesting to process. 7 days ago, my beloved cat just died, the oldest one. And I was hoping, really, I was hoping to hear that when I'm going, whenever I have to die, he's going to greet me and meet me in the skies, but after what you have said, I still have this doubt. Is it possible that maybe our beloved pets will be there because they will raise their paw and say, oh, I want to meet my human, like what to expect about pets when you you transcend?
Yes, I actually spoke about it also. Generally the human soul space is different than the animal soul space. It is not the same. But there are something called caretaker souls who can connect the two spaces. Okay. So many of us, when we die, we want to meet our beloved pets because they have been part of our family for years together. And at times we forget that they are not human beings also, so they are so close to us, and when we die we really want to meet them, and these caretaker souls bring our pets to us, and we get the opportunity to spend ample amount of time. Again, time is a misnomer in the spirit world, but then we get ample amount of space to be with them and to stay with them, and then eventually release them. But again, you have to understand, death is when death happens of somebody, we go through certain emotional turmoil. It is grief is an emotion, sadness is an emotion. So one of the major learnings in soul state is also to feel some of the depth of the emotions without the pain, without the pain of the emotion. How to learn grief without pain. It sounds very weird, but some of my clients have said that at the soul state they are now learning how to learn sorrow and grief without the pain. And wow, that is also possible. Oh, interesting.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yes, Raki, it is possible. So yeah, that is something I did not touch. So it is possible not to take birth after death. So you may decide. So it is always there. So then it takes to the next question: why do we take birth at all? We take birth because it is the risk and return game. You learn maximum. Your soul grows maximum in a unstructured environment, in a environment where you don't know about your past, you don't know about your future. You are thrown in an environment, and in that environment you have to grow. Your soul should remember what are the resolutions, and you have to perform and you have to grow. So souls know that if they take birth, they grow faster. If they don't take birth, they may not grow faster. So souls prefer taking birth many a times to grow faster. But there's another point there. There are souls which have very high level of responsibilities up there. So when the responsibilities are higher and it is allocated by the masters, then they have to perform their duties over there. Okay, and they are insisted not to take birth. Okay, so that is part of the duty. But then if that is not there, so if you don't have a lot of duties up there, and if you're not performing your responsibilities, then you can decide to take birth, and nobody will force you to take birth. It is up to your soul to decide. Nothing is forceful. You have to take your call whether to learn by taking birth or you want to learn staying up there. It is your call.
I have a question, Devashi sir. First of all, immense gratitude for this wonderful session. I always look forward to you speaking on this forum. And so whenever I miss, I really feel a vacuum. So just showing my gratitude. I have two questions. They're kind of attached. You spoke about something like soul fragmentation, and there is one term called soul fracture. So please elaborate a little bit more on using very simple layman language. And second part B of this question is, you said human souls remain human, and
I might forget. Let me answer your first question, then I'll go to the second question. Okay. So it is like accident in the physical form. So sometimes, suppose if somebody faces an accident and there's a fracture in the arm. Okay. So that is just a crack. Sometimes it can be hairline crack or a fracture. Okay. And if the accident is very, very severe, the doctor decides to ampute the particular part of the body. So when you talk about fractures are not so intensive, but amputation is like fragmentation. So when the harm that is caused to the soul is really very, very deep, the parts of the soul gets fragmented and they are lost also. In fact, I did conduct a couple of sessions on meditation, which actually takes your subconscious mind very deep and tries to connect the fragmented parts of the soul. Many of you are there in this session also. You might be remembering that I did those sessions where I called the Heart of Elijah, if you remember. So that is a process by which we rejoin the fragmented parts of the soul, the lost parts of the soul into the soul to help it revive its original shape with which it can perform to the maximum possible extent. So for example, part of the leg is not there and we get an artificial leg which will perform 99% like a normal leg.
But I'm told even any part of your body is gone, like ladies get their uterus removed because of fibroids or spleen removed, the energy signatures are still there. So healing can be done to that in energy signature, like hologram you spoke about.
Yes.
And
Don't mix up the physical parts of the body with the soul. That was just an example. It was kind of a analogy, not the real form. So when parts of our body are removed, like say kidney is removed, as you said, uterus is removed. Just 2 weeks back, my sister went through a surgery, and her uterus and ovary both were removed. But then, yes, the energy still is there, and that is not similar to soul fragmentation. That is very different. But yes, does it impact the soul? Yes, it impacts the soul, because not everybody goes through that kind of a pain, that kind of a trauma. So yes, the soul really goes through that, goes through a pain. So once you are at the soul state, once you enter through the tunnel, the first thing that your guide will do is to bring you in that bubble and pass on energy to you to help you heal all the fractured parts of your soul. If the problem with your soul is really very, very deep, then the guide understands that a general practitioner, an MBBS doctor is not enough. Then you need a specialist MD or an MS. Then it takes you to a hospital. Otherwise, the guide, in 80% of the cases, the guides are, able, the guides are general medicine doctors. Okay, I'm just trying to draw an analogy there. So they are general practitioners, general medicine doctors. They are able to heal. And if it is very deep, then it goes to a hospital.
And you were using the term soul guides. Are they like more like our ancestors? There are soul guides, spirit guides?
No, they may not be your ancestors, while they can be your ancestors also. It depends on your phase of life. In your childhood, the kind of life that you will be going through requires certain, it's like teachers, like our teachers. Our teachers of class 5 are not the same as the teachers of class 12. Similarly, guides also have certain phases of your life. So for a particular phase of your life, you have a certain guide. For the next phase, you have another guide. Sometimes certain phases of your lives are so intensive that you may need multiple guides. So in general, in the early phases of your life, you may have your ancestors who are in physical form with you in some lifetime as your guides. But not all of your ancestors are even capable to be guides. That is also there. Because as I told you, when you die, after we die, we do not become guides and masters. We may not have a job in the spirit world all the time. Because your soul also needs to be advanced enough to become a guide. If you are not eligible to be a guide, you cannot be a guide. So not every ancestor of yours can be a guide. But there are few who are very enlightened and they can be your guides. So they are your guides.
Okay. And our ancestors wants to come back as grandchildren, great grandchildren in our family, or not necessarily?
That can happen. That can happen.
Not necessarily. It
So
may happen.
not necessary, but it does happen. It can happen.
Okay. My part B of the question was like we see so much of population, human population now in the world, including India. The population has increased. So what is happening? Like you are saying, animal kingdom soul does not come in human form majority of time. But then how one soul is being divided into many human forms, or what is happening? Like population has increased ever since we know, like whatever we hear through census. So what could be the reason? More human are coming here, and like either advanced souls are coming, or they were just soul energy bubbles were there, and they decided to come because the population has increased so much, so much. What could be the reason, possible reason?
Yes. So I don't know what is the divine plan, but then there can be both things. One, as I told right in the beginning, souls are like fire. From one soul, you can create multiple souls. And also, new souls can be created, just like fire. New fire can happen somewhere, and one fire can create multiple fires also. Similarly, one soul can create multiple souls. Multiple presence of souls can be there, and new souls also are created. So, in fact, this is something very interesting. I have been able to go to past life regressions with patients where the highest level was incubator mother. The incubator mother can feel the presence of the creator creating the bubbles of souls, but what is happening at the behind the scenes, she was not able to see. So she says that there must be a creator who is creating these bubbles, these beehives from which the souls are coming. So yes, new souls are being created everywhere. Okay, but when I asked, I had a similar question like yours. So this lady told me that these are divine plans, and I really don't know what is the divine plan, why population explosion is happening, and whether suddenly there will be total standstill situation. What is going to happen? I don't have any clue. What is the plan of the divine? We are aligned at the most to our guides, to spirits, to saints, to masters. But there are a few things that we can ask and we cannot ask. This is something, it is not in our domain to ask. I cannot ask what is the plan of God.
Debashrishti, good morning.
Yes. Good morning.
Yeah, I wanted to know if somebody who is very sick and dies in the hospital, not even regaining consciousness, what happens to them? They must have been in it must be a great tormented soul, because that soul has been made to part with the loved ones and now has to face an unknown world, and the fear must have been there in the heart.
No. So there are two kinds of death. One is sudden death, and the other is gradual death. Okay, in the physical form. Okay, when it is gradual death, there will be reasons of death. Okay, and it is very natural. Even Buddha, from that age itself, has been trying to research on pain during death. So some amount of a pain during death is inevitable. Okay, but there are some lucky ones who suddenly have a heart attack and within seconds they pass away. That's a different matter. But when it is a gradual death, like for example, somebody being in the ventilation for a few days and then old age, everybody knows that time is close, and then they suffer. I'm using the word very carefully. They suffer for a few months or even years, and then they pass away. In these kind of cases, it is very, very planned. I remember my Mosi was
Very planned.
Planned.
Is it that the soul decides to leave?
Oh, it is mutual. It is mutual. Yes. The answer is yes. The soul cannot leave unless it wants to leave. Okay.
So why would a soul decide to leave when he's in the physical world where it has tremendous attachments.
Very interesting question. No, it's done with its attachments. Okay. And the soul now, so why does a soul take birth? That is the first question before you want to know why do a soul want to live. The reason why a soul takes birth and wants to live is only and only learning. So when the soul feels that I don't have anything else to learn, it decides to leave. Okay. So
The soul is fed up.
no, not fed up, not fed up, not fed up at all. That's a negative word. So when the soul thinks that whatever I had to get from this, so it is like a classroom, you have, suppose you have gone for a workshop, 2-day workshop, and or a movie, for example, 3 hours movie you have gone through, and or you have not gone to a theater to see a movie, you are watching a movie on the OTT platform. Actually, it happened with me day before yesterday. I was watching a movie of this fellow Manoj Bajpayee, and I like him. I like his acting. I started watching the movie, and in the middle of the movie, I understood. I can clearly understand what is going to happen. I don't want to watch it anymore. So I switched to something else. Okay. So same way, a soul, when it understands that there is nothing else to learn from this life, it decides to move on. Okay. So, and it is also planned very nicely, there is a starting, there is a climax, and then gradually it comes down. The learning also comes down, and then it comes gradually to a rest and so on. So this is called gradual death. The sudden death is unplanned. And this is when the soul actually did not have any plans to leave, but had to leave. Maybe an accident, maybe a suicide, maybe sudden trauma, and so on. This is the time when your near ones, your dear ones, your angels are not there to receive you. When my Mausi, Badi Mausi, when she was passing away, I was there in the hospital. She was suffering from cancer. That day, I was climbing the stairs to go to the to her cabin. She was out of the ICU and she was on bed, because that was, doctor also said these are the last few hours. And I went there and I could feel the presence of the angels there. They have all come, and there were souls. I did not know any one of them, but there were souls who were waiting to take them together. As if like it is a ceremony. And I was like feeling so awesome about it. Oh my God, this is so great. And I could feel the fragrance of those, those souls and those angels there.
Beautiful that must have been. How beautiful for you.
Yes, yeah, that is beautiful. And that happens with all of us. It is not my Mausi, it is with everybody. If it is a planned death, then it is, the soul knows that it is leaving. Your dear ones, I mean, your soul clan, your soul cluster, everybody knows that you are coming. So it is a ceremony up there. Oh my God. So it is just like, suppose your father has gone to the war front and returning back after 2 years. It's a ceremony at home. You will try to cook the best of the best food. You will have all kinds of things, nice music going on in the background. The house is totally clean. It is like that.
So do they get united to their forefathers or the fathers, or?
The soul clan that I'm talking about, the soul family that I'm talking about is not the family of this birth, of physical birth. There are people whom you meet in this birth, they actually don't belong to your soul clan at all.
But sometimes it's your soulmate.
Yes. I'm saying there are both things. Don't think one way. It is both ways. So there are members of your family who are part of your soul clan, your soul group, and 1 or 2 of them may be your soul mates also. And you might also meet your twin soul also. There are so many things, but not everybody in your family, in your blood, are or they belong to your soul clan. Some of them may not be from your soul clan. And why is that? The reason is also very simple. That is because why do you take birth? You have to go back there. You take birth because you want to learn a few things. And sometimes you feel that I can learn if I select that mother's womb. So you get the option of selecting a mother's womb, and sometimes you select a mother's womb which is not your soul clan, but the learning will be maximum over there. The soul generally doesn't want to select such a mother which does not belong to the clan, but then sometimes the masters insist. So the masters might say, Uma, you know what? I understand this particular lady is not your soul clan, but the learnings from this life that you are planning to take will be the maximum if you take birth there. And you listen to the master and you take birth there.
Because sometimes you're in a family where you are not respected or loved. And maybe that is what is a learning, that you have to still respect.
Exactly, exactly. Everything that happens to us is learning, and everything that happens, I was talking about punishment. What is punishment? There is nothing called punishment. Punishment is what we inflict on ourselves. At the soul state, we decide, oh my God, how miserable I was, how cruel I was. I want to compensate this. मैं प्रायश्चित करना चाहता हूं. So when you decide to compensate for all the wrongdoings, you want to inflict on yourself in the next birth. Oh, I was such a drunkard, and I humiliated people so much when I was drunk in my last birth. This birth, I will take a birth when I take an oath that I will not touch alcohol. I'm talking about myself, huh?
Oh, you did take an oath. That's wonderful.
Yes, yes. And in this birth, I had so many opportunities to have free alcohol in so many different forms, right from childhood, if I may. I'm sorry to disclose this also, but I was never attracted to it. So I
What
don't
about
know, I don't blame.
sorry to cut you. What about the planetary positions? Because they said, oh, Saturn, Saraswati, this is for you to learn. This is your learning period. Saturn comes to teach you. And if you don't learn, it's going to bring you back again, all the problems, so you learn. So what is that?
That is the background where the masters work. So the moment you decide that you want to take this life form, the masters start preparing the papers. The paperwork starts. Okay, just like the hospital. Hospital starts preparing your discharge certificate, what are the symptoms and this and that. So that is how the papers are prepared, which you call horoscope, which you call the planetary positions and all that. Just to ensure that exactly what you are planning there, up there to fulfill your resolutions are also fulfilled in your physical form.
How should one behave then in very circumstances which are not very conducive to your liking, or you have to live a testing life?
Yes. So you have to understand that the life that we lead, why do souls take birth? The souls take birth because when they take birth up to the age of 3, they remember everything that happened in the previous births. The moment they start talking, they forget everything. Okay, so now you are exposed to an environment which is totally new to you. You forget your resolutions, you forget why you took birth, and only your subconscious mind remembers faintly that these were your resolutions. How do you perform yourself despite the resolutions not being there on your conscious mind? So there are chances that you may be diverted to wrong directions. How do you listen to your conscience and still be there on the right track? So in one of these platforms, I discussed that Osama bin Laden or any soul which is known to be a disaster to mankind did not take birth to be a disaster to mankind. It is the circumstances that made them. So they moved far beyond what they were expected to do. And then they will be spending the next hundreds of births to compensate that. So that is why the risk in physical form is very high. The pains that you go through may not be all planned. Only some points of your life are planned, not everything. So there are chances that you can change. You can change for the good, you can change for the bad. When you are taking birth, I mean, how many hours you will meditate and how many hours you will be praying to the divine was not fixed. Many things are not fixed. In fact, it can be so that some of the things which were fixed can also fall apart if your soul is not cooperating with your subconscious mind. That is the risk that you take when you take birth. And that is why, because you take the risk of taking birth, the chances of moving towards enlightenment is higher when you are in a birth form. That is why learning happens most when you are with people, not when you are in the Himalayas becoming a sannyasi. Unless you are that enlightened. If you are that enlightened, when you have completed all your learnings and you are there, it is a different matter.
Do you also believe in the planetary movements? Now they're saying on 29th March, there's going to be all planets going to be retrograde, and it's going to be a very big learning for the mankind. I don't know, what are we expecting?
Well, I believe, but then I have very limited knowledge in that.
I guess this is a heavy year for everyone, for learning.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Unless you
Anyway,
have
thank you so much.
more questions.
Sir, I wanted to ask
Yes.
that we don't know what resolutions we took, what oaths we took that we're going to rectify in this birth. So, how to go about it?
So it's through understanding the resolutions of this life is not that difficult. Either you can do it through past life regression, or what you can do very simple is just enter into meditation very deep and try to call. It is not one day job, by the way. Don't be restless. Just through meditation, try to focus very deep into calling your spirit guide. Okay, call your spirit guide. It can take any form. And once you're acquainted with your spirit guide, start talking to your spirit guide and ask, what are your resolutions in this birth? You will get an answer. Okay, so it is there in your subconscious mind, but you may not be able to tap it. So to tap it, you can take the help of your spirit guide. And if you are able to go deep into meditation, and if you can go deep into your subconscious mind, you can ask the question and find out what is the purpose of your life. It is not that difficult.
Sir, one last question, small one. What did you do to have this gift of automatic writing through some spirit world? You know, you mentioned like you do automatic writing, and which is not your style, but you are guided to. So, how was the connection made that way between two of you?
A difficult question. I don't know how, but then, many of these things are carried forward from previous lifetimes. And for example, you cannot be a healer in this lifetime unless you are a healer in previous lifetimes. So many of these things, if you play instruments, okay, and if you really play well certain instruments, it has to have connection with your previous lifetimes. Okay. If you are by nature a very kind person, if you are by nature a person who hardly gets angry, it has to do with your previous lifetime. So many of these things have connections to your previous lifetime, and you really don't do anything to get it. You just need to nurture your soul to, to take out your previous learnings. I think that is all that I can say about it.
So meditation helps.
Oh, by no limits. Because meditation is the time when you can connect to yourself. meditation is a process by which you can connect with your soul. Meditation is a process by which you can connect to your soulmates. Okay. And as I also mentioned, I will be taking a meditation session that will be for healing the soul, the fragmented parts of the soul, the fractured parts of the soul, or the distorted parts of the soul.
Oh, that'll be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Devashish ji.